What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Pack-A-Day Podcast Happy Hour. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here. Obviously, a lot of fun stuff to discuss. Douglas hit it right away in the chat. Not only there's this awesome win, they play their best football of the year. Jordan looks amazing. But man, what if I told you 2 weeks ago that the Packers legitimately had an opportunity at the playoffs? I don't think I would have necessarily believed you, but wins over the Chargers and the Lions have completely changed the entire dynamic of this Packers season. You were looking at potentially, on a huge losing streak outside of winning against Brett Rippon and the Rams, and tough games against the Chargers and the Lions. And to get both of those wins and in pretty convincing fashion against the Lions, I know it ends up ultimately being a one-score game. Don't really buy it as a one-score game. Like it was garbage touchdown basically at the end. I know Green Bay wasn't exactly trying to allow a touchdown, but they were certainly willing to give up the points in order, in exchange for all the time that they took off the clock to do it. But impressive win. And yes, as crazy as it sounds, and then you couple that with Seattle's loss last night, they are a game out of both the 6th and 7th positions. They have a game left against Minnesota. And now Packers Chiefs, like that feels totally different. I'm not saying Green Bay is going to be favorited or anything like that. Like that's going to be an extremely tough game at home against the Chiefs, but Chiefs haven't exactly been Chiefsing as of late. Like there've been some issues in the armor in KC, and we'll see what Green Bay can do against the Chiefs. And maybe they can come up with another shocking victory. At this point, who the heck knows? But what a great way to have Thanksgiving and kind of start week 12 off with a massive Packers win against the Lions. All right, does the Pack potentially making a playoff run change how you view cutting veterans next offseason, or stay the same course and maybe supplement with some more vets in free agency? I was actually thinking about this today, Alex, and I think part of it does have me recalibrating things a little bit. And like I said, we look back, Green Bay was 3-5, right? Yeah, 3-5. And they were, 2 games that you were looking at as potential losses. And it looked like this was going to be maybe a really tough stretch of season. And, they were going to have to continue this rebuild pretty aggressively. What I don't think that you want to do is now be like, oh, look how close they are. I still think this team is a couple years away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender or anything like that. So I think they still need to acquire assets and young players and still kind of build around the youth that they have and build that foundation up. I haven't changed my mindset on that in any way, shape, or form. But you start looking at the hard part about all of those contracts, specifically Devondre Campbell, Aaron Jones, Kenny Clark. I'm trying to think of the other ones. There's one other one too that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But the issue with all of them, Preston Smith, the issue with all of them is that there's not a ton of savings that's there. And you kind of are in the same spot if you kind of keep them. Now you save money down the road, which is important. But Preston played awesome yesterday. Aaron Jones, you're going to have to make a decision on. Devondre's the one where I'm probably still leaning towards, I think it's probably time to cut bait and kind of go in a different direction and start developing some more young players at that position. But it's a much different conversation now. And if they wanted to keep some of those players around as they continue to kind of build this team up at the foundations, it's a little bit more understandable. So yeah, I think the calculus has changed a little bit. I think the conversation has changed a little bit, but still not to the point where I'm wanting to be like, all right, let's start acquiring a bunch of big money free agents and everything like that again. I still think you need to wait another year or two before you start getting to that point. And obviously Bakhtiari's contract is super, complicated and could be an issue too, based on whether he's injured or not. But definitely an interesting conversation, and one we'll continue to have, Alex, as the rest of the season and plays out and as we get into the off season. I look like I'm in 4K today. I did not get a new camera, same camera. I don't know if sometimes it is just, different bandwidth or something. Maybe I'm getting a better internet connection today, but new, same camera. This is a true story. This is absolutely 1,000,000%. If you want to know, I get that I'm the most luckiest, blessed person in the world to get to do what I do. I have a brand new, super Mac computer sitting right here. I've got a new mic, a new stand, a new HD camera, a new sound mixer. I'm looking at all of this, a new mouse, a new keyboard, a new everything. I bought that stuff before the season began. And I have yet to have the opportunity to set any of it up because it's just been so crazy with everything going on and just how nuts everything is with all the stuff that I'm doing. So eventually we will have better camera, better sound, better everything. It's in the works. I promise. Probably I'm hoping to do a little bit this Sunday and next week with, coming off like a mini buy, but we'll see if I actually get to it or not, but it's getting there. All right. Look at that inactive list, and we still got an impressive win. The future is bright. Yeah, that's the interesting part. I was looking at the safety position as part of this. So I was going through and just kind of looking at my grades as I kind of put together the grades this week and obviously through the course of the season. The safety position is one of the most intriguing ones because one of the things I was also thinking of is like, who do you want as your two starting safeties if everyone's healthy? You got Savage, Anthony Johnson Jr., Jonathan Owens, and Rudy Ford. Like, who would be your two starters? I'm actually interested in the chat. If you guys want to hit up and chat, like who your starters would be at safety of those four. Here are my grades of those four safeties so far. Rudy Ford, negative 0.15. This is on the season. Anthony Johnson, negative 0.55. Darnell Savage, negative 0.6. Jonathan Owens, negative 0.2. Now, it sounds like it's all negative or whatever. Those are all almost exact neutral grades. Like, you're not upset. Like, those are little like fluctuations, if anything. That's basically a neutral grade on all four. Like, so the highest would be Rudy Ford with a negative 0.15 and then Jonathan Owens with a negative 0.2 so far. Like, and there's very little difference. So I'm curious for you guys. I'm thinking right now, if it's me, I kind of like Rudy Ford and Anthony Johnson Jr., if I'm being honest. Anthony Johnson Jr. should probably stay starting simply because he's under contract next year and nobody else is outside of Zane Anderson. So you kind of want to keep that. So I'm kind of on the Rudy Ford, Anthony Johnson Jr. bandwagon, but that's a really interesting group of four safeties. And I'm not sure if all of them are healthy, which two that you want starting. So curious your thoughts in chat. Do you think we sign AJ Dillon next year? I think of all the potential free agents, this is the one that probably comes down to just money and value. I'll say it differently. I'll say value. And what I mean by that is I legitimately think if AJ wants to stay in Green Bay, we know he has connections in Green Bay. He loves the Door County area. He's the mayor of Door County. If that's what he wants to do, and he's willing to maybe take a little bit less in Green Bay to stay in Green Bay, I think there's a legitimate chance he could be back. He's played really good football over the past month. After like the first 3-4 weeks where he really struggled, he's looked night and day different. And it's been really positive to see. Pass pro's been good, catching the ball in the backfield. Of course, he did have the play where he ran the wrong way yesterday. That's a problem. But overall, I think that's going to come down to value. And if they can get him on a solid team deal, I think they'd be interested in bringing him back. I think they are going to need to get younger and more explosive at that position. I think everyone's seen the Dolphins and I know they're not exactly having the greatest offensive game as we speak right now, but all the speed that they're putting on the field. Green Bay has revamped their wide receiver core to have more speed. They've revamped their tight end room to have more speed. I think the next one to get revamped with more speed is running back. So I think at some point they're going to want to add some juice to that group. Aaron Jones's career in Green Bay is winding down, whether that's next year, the following year, we'll have to wait and see, but it's winding down. Dillon's a free agent. Emmanuel Wilson is not probably going to be the guy for you. He's a rotational piece probably at best. So I think the big question is, do they want to add some speed to that room? But if they can get AJ Dillon for value, I think they'll absolutely consider going in that direction. Thanksgiving pizza was great. Alex, favorite Christmas movie? Big Muppet Christmas Carol guy. Love the Muppet Christmas Carol. I mean, the original Home Alone is always fantastic. I don't know if you can count Royal Tenenbaums as a Christmas movie. There is like a Christmas tree, and it does play Christmas Time Is Here. So if we can count Royal Tenenbaums as a Christmas movie, that is my favorite Christmas movie. But otherwise, the other ones I mentioned, always good. I put an 8-leg parlay on that. Would return $35,000 and cashed out after Green Bay's horrendous start to the season. One of the legs was Packers to make the playoffs, and I feel sick right now. Oh, man. Lee, I am sorry, but at least you were able to get cashed out. That's still better than potentially losing anything. Ooh, Dolphins just scored a touchdown. Man, Jets look terrible. Absolutely terrible. How do you feel about Alan Lazard not being active today? I know he's had a bunch of drops, and I know he hasn't had the production. That Jets offense is just a nightmare. They can't block anyone. They literally can't block anyone. Anytime anyone ever wants to get upset about a team drafting an offensive lineman in the draft, never get upset. good offensive linemen are so hard to find. You have to constantly develop them. And if you don't have a decent offensive line, you are just dead. Like, Aaron would certainly help this Jets team. There's zero question about that. And the Jets defense is really freaking good, but their offensive line would have lost them games no matter what. And like, it certainly didn't help with Aaron those first 4 snaps either. That Jets offense is terrible. But yeah, Lazard, Cobb, those guys I went over today. Like, you look at Robert Tonyan, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, a lot of the guys that they lost, there's not many players that are doing much elsewhere. Mercedes Lewis has been good in Chicago, but only played about 100 snaps. Tonyan hasn't done anything. Chris Barnes has had a decent run with Arizona, but he didn't really even play in like the last 7 weeks for the most part. So they didn't lose much on the free agent market this past year. Andy, do you think the Packers found their franchise quarterback? I think it's definitely trending in that direction. And certainly based on yesterday, it would seem like that's likely the case. What I will say here, and this is not a knock on Jordan or anyone, and I don't want to rain on any parades here, but if Jordan has 2 back-to-back poor performances the next 2 weeks, everyone's going to fly in the opposite direction and be like, oh, clearly not the guy. This guy sucks. You got to go in a different direction. They need to move up and get Caleb Williams. That's the world that we live in, right? So 2 bad games after this, and everyone's going to flip in the exact opposite direction. He's had a really great stretch of games. I do think he's the guy, if I had to guess. I think the great part about Jordan is you can easily give him the remainder of this season, and he's going to get the remainder of this season to play it out to help you make that determination. And every one of those games is still going to matter. And he's still under contract next year, and you have all next year to get the contract done. And theoretically, if you needed a franchise tag after that, you could too. So you have some baked in time here to still give you enough time to make that decision. Now, if Green Bay's seen enough and they think, okay, not only is he the guy, we think this is like a top 10 quarterback potentially, then you might want to start getting this contract done sooner rather than later before he plays himself into a massive contract. But it's still an interesting discussion. And if I'm Green Bay, I kind of want to see the rest of this year play out just to be cautious and safe, because it's such an important and massive decision for the Packers. But it's definitely trending in that direction. You draft some better offensive linemen and get some better offensive linemen on the team next year. I don't think that's going to be something they can fix this year. Josh is a bad run blocking center. Runyon's a bad run blocking guard. Zach Tom is fine, but he's like a average at best run blocking tackle. Rashid's an awful run blocking tackle. And Jenkins is I would say slightly average to slightly above average run blocking left guard. You just have bad blockers up front. At tight end, you're playing rookies at all the tight end positions. And I give Tucker Kraft and Ben Sims credit. They're blocking pretty darn well right now, but it's not like you've got Mercedes Lewis out there blocking. Jaden Reed, Dontayvion Wicks is actually a pretty good blocker, but Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs aren't like amazing blockers on the outside. So you've got a lot of poor blocking positions up in front. And AJ Dillon's not a guy where it's like, if there's not things blocked up where he can just make things happen. Jones can do a little bit of that, but there's no perfect answer. Give Green Bay credit for finding ways to manufacture runs. Some of the reverses we've seen, the keeper by Jordan Love the other day, like they found some ways to get some big runs. And, the AJ Dillon 40-yarder the other day where they blocked it up perfectly. Finally, they're finding ways to get some of it better, but this is going to be a process and it's going to take some time. I don't think this anything that's going to happen this year. What you're hoping for is maybe some incremental improvements. All right. What else we got here? No real interest in Derek Barnett. I mean, first of all, I don't think he's a perfect fit for their defense. Secondly, there's not really a place to play him. If you're playing him on the edge, you've got, Preston and Gary Inigbari is coming off his best game of the season this past week against the Lions. LVN needs time, and even Brenton Cox I'd like to see get some time. So, yeah, I don't think there's any interest really in bringing in Derek Barnett this offseason. See, I'm not there yet, Lee. I'm not ready to go sign a bunch of players. That time will come, and that time will come when you have even more free agent money to spend. They're not going to have a ton of money this upcoming offseason. They're still going to have some bad contracts on the books and some things that they need to get off of. So I'm not there yet to go out and spend a ton of money. Now, if there's a player like 26 or under that you think is going to be like a 3 or 4 year investment and you think you can get a great deal on a player that's a long-term play, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I would be more cautious with it. And like I said, maybe get one young player if you think they're a long-term answer at a position. Other than that, I would prefer they just kind of keep things steady and keep building the young players on this team, not to mention adding 5 top 75 picks in the draft. The Jets pick is getting closer and closer to a top second rounder, which is great. Hopefully they can keep losing. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm not quite there yet, Lee. All right. So Matt says he wants to start Rudy Ford and Anthony Johnson Jr. Like I said, that's where I want as well. Yang, Ford and Johnson, Eric, Ford and Johnson. So we seem to be on the same page there. Detroit's not for real. We'll see. I think there's some issues in Detroit. I don't think they're a perfect team. That defense is not playing great as of late, but I still think that's a signature win and an important win for Green Bay to go in there short week, all the injuries they have against a team that's going to play you tough no matter what, and to pick up that win. I still think that's a really important win for Green Bay. How many more games like this would it take for the team and Jordan to work on a Daniel Jones at a minimum type contract extension? Beat the Chiefs. Go in and beat the Chiefs, and you probably start having those conversations, assuming he has a big game in that game. But no, I think it's getting closer and closer week by week if he continues to play like this. Another Rudy and Anthony Johnson Jr. Like it. Most hated Minnesotan. How's it going, man? Got a bunch of idiot Vikings fans thanking me today for the Packers beating the Lions. Insufferable. Let Vikings fans be Vikings fans. The Vikings have a lot to worry about and should be probably a little bit worried about where the Packers are at in the playoff standings. Look at Timmy Boyle get yardage on the ground. Actually, I think he lost yardage. Oh, well, what can you do? But yeah, the Vikings have their own problems right now. So let them be, and that'll all work itself out. We'll kind of go from there. Spiked Mocha, thank you so much for the super chat. Who keeps more washed up friends employed, Adam Sandler or Aaron Rodgers? That's a really good question. I like that question a lot. I don't know that I necessarily have an answer, but I like that question a lot. And yeah, the New York Jetpacks, the Rodgers, Lazards, Cobbs, Jake Hansen is there, Tim Boyle, Nathaniel Hackett, Adrian Amos, Malik Taylor. Who else am I missing? Anyone? Billy Turner. That's not going great. That is not going great at all. And obviously a lot of that's due to Aaron's injury, but it has not been going great. Eric says he wants to see more Benny Sapp. Cool seeing some more Benny Sapp. I don't think Benny Sapp's the answer to any question. He had a great tackle on special teams, but it's funny when I got to the rookie mini camp this year. You can go find the tweet online if you want. When I got to rookie mini camp, I was watching all the undrafted guys, and the guy that caught my eye the most was Benny Sapp. And I kind of felt that it was more of like a special team / backup safety type player. But he caught my eye almost immediately and was, excited about him. And he's made a name for himself. Had that awesome, was it interception touchdown, I want to say, or interception in the preseason, and has just kind of continued to make a name for himself. Seems to kind of be really clicking on special teams. Has had a few snaps on defense these past couple of weeks. So we'll see if he can kind of continue progressing and maybe he gets his name called at some point. Tom, how big have these 4 weeks been for Matt LaFleur? Culture, development, scheme, hell, even Joe Barry looking not terrible. It's been massive and it's been really impressive. This was not trending in a great direction, not only from like a record standpoint, but man, some of those games just looked really ugly and you didn't see a level of attention to detail. And there was just some really ugly stuff on tape. And it was fair. It was legitimately fair to question of like, all right, is this staff the right staff to be developing all these young players? Man, what a difference a few weeks can make. And credit to Matt. One of the things, and to be clear, I did say that there was a lot of blame to be put on Matt on this season. If there was one, finger that you had to point, I've never soured on Matt. I've always thought that he is a good coach in this league. I do think he's going to find his way out of it. But one of the things that I really love about Matt is he's not afraid to change things up and try different things. And I know that might seem a little bit, counterintuitive because we see John Runyon Jr. still out on the field and we see some, loyalty to maybe players and coaches that has gone on far too long. I get that, but he's willing to change up practice habits and how they do things in the offseason. And he's always looking at ways that they can improve on their process. And I really appreciate that. And I think some of the changes that they've made have really helped. And hopefully that can continue to be the case moving forward. I do think they have a group of players that really wants to learn and continue to get better. And I think we're seeing some really fun stuff from this Packers team, and hopefully it continues to trend in the right direction. Chris, Ford and Johnson, Savage is in it. Elf is a great movie as well, Tyler. Second round running backs in recent years, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, used the Jets pick on a running back. I'm with that. I'm cool with that. I think second round is a great round for a running back, especially when you need one. And I think the NFL is swinging back a little bit into like, you have to have a good running game. And it's really hard to succeed in the NFL if you don't. So getting a good running back, one that can catch the ball out of the backfield and be a playmaker, along with some offensive linemen that can block it up, that's just going to make Jordan's life so much easier. Yeah, I don't think Savage is back either, but that's probably another one of those value ones where Green Bay can get him cheap and, he's willing to come back cheap. They would consider it, but I think they're going to definitely look to upgrade at that position. Kevin, welcome from Germany. Really appreciate the kind words. I like listen or watch, sometimes even both, every single day. Love that. I've had people reach out from Switzerland and Germany and all over the place over these past few days. And that always just blows my mind. I've talked to people in Slovenia and Brazil and everywhere. It's just, I love that there are Packers fans everywhere, and you guys can never get enough content, which is always amazing. So really, really appreciate that. Jets offense is horrible. Wouldn't want Rodgers to get hurt again. Yeah, I got to think that he sees everything that's going on and where this Jet season is trending. They're going to be 4-7 and just says, maybe it's better to wait until 2024. What are you rushing back for? That Jets team is not going to make the playoffs. Like, just let it be, get back in 2024 and go from there. This 2023 Jets team is lost. I mentioned this earlier, but no, I don't think they would bring in Derek Barnett. Don't think they bring in Leonard's a more interesting one to me, unless he got picked up today and I didn't see it. But Darius Leonard would be a little bit more interesting because of the Campbell injury, although I think he'll probably be back next week. But it's a little bit more intriguing, but I don't think they'll go in that direction either. Yeah, I saw the Jets Hail Mary that resulted in a touchdown. I saw people blaming Tim Boyle like it's a Hail Mary. Like his job is to get the ball to the end zone. Then after that, it's kind of like out of his hands. And you're not expecting a pick six off of a Hail Mary. And like I said, I don't think that's ever happened before. How much of a hit do you still feel like losing Sewell was? It sucks because he's such a good player and he's playing great in Buffalo right now. They've been playing good football ever since they traded him. Carrington Valentine has stepped up. Valentine had a tough week this week, but overall he's been pretty consistent and solid. And I think like if you get Jair back and Jair can actually play like Jair, I think Jair and Valentine on the outside are going to be just fine. So it sucks. And especially it sucks now that they're like actually making a legitimate playoff push, but it's kind of worked out. And, it could be better. And I think if you had Rasul on the team, it would be better, but I don't think it's like this awful thing either. And like I said, they've been winning football games. They just beat Detroit and the Chargers without Rasul Douglas. Meanwhile, the Bills are losing games with Rasul Douglas. Poor Rasul Douglas. He's had a rough season. Of all the Bills and Packers, like whatever team Rasul's been on, they do with Rasul because he's been great for. It seemed to lose like connection for like 5 seconds in every stream, and it makes no sense whatsoever. But sorry about that if I'm losing connection. But either way, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a player that makes a ton of sense. I mentioned earlier that like you want to target like 25, 26 and under players. Like he is perfect for that. And I don't think Tampa has really probably any plans of letting him go, but that could be like a 5 or 6 year awesome safety for you. And he's available for now. He's available for your next window. And that would be a player that when I was mentioning earlier, if you want to put a bunch of money into a young player that's going to be here a while, he makes a ton of sense and would be a great fit for that Packers secondary and really fill a pretty major need. Antoine Winfield Jr., Anthony Johnson Jr., I could see that being a really nice safety tandem. And then you don't have to put a bunch of draft capital into safety either and can kind of spend it elsewhere. Need to draft some bulldozers, draft, sign, whatever. They need to get, and it's tough. Offensive linemen are really hard to find. We just talked about the Jets and their poor offensive line. Like there's a reason when you see like trade deadline stuff happen, offensive linemen aren't part of it. If you have a hint of a decent offensive lineman, you hold on to them like grim death. You are not getting rid of a good offensive lineman almost no matter what. I think the last time it happened was when Trent Williams was traded, and he was basically demanding a trade, and the 49ers got a steal in trading for Trent Williams. You don't see that stuff happen very often. I guess Laramie Tunsil was another one. That was was it Tunsil? No, or was it? Yeah, it was Tunsil, right? Goes from the Dolphins to the Texans. You see it every once in a while, but man, if those things come available, take advantage of them, because it's so hard to find good offensive linemen. And that's why you really want to draft and develop them. And that's why guys like Zach Tom are just such a steal when you can find those type of players. David, thanks so much for becoming a new member. That is awesome. If you guys haven't checked out Pack-A-Day Podcast memberships yet, my cheap plug to go check them out. New video every single week for members only, a members only Q&A just like this, but obviously it's a smaller group, so you get more of your questions answered, and it's a really fun community with a lot of great people asking a lot of great questions, and we kind of dig into some deeper dive stuff too, which is a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, check it out. A lot of different membership options that are available to you. And David, thanks so much for becoming a member. Off-season cap space, considering foreseeable cuts. Chris, I will be totally transparent with you. I would have to go and spend some time looking at it, because I have not spent time looking at the salary cap situation yet. I do know that there's not going to be a ton of space, and there's still some things that they're going to have to pay for next year. But I'll try to do maybe an episode on that coming up. But I don't want to half-ass it here and give you half information. I don't have all of the numbers off the top of my head and certainly in front of me. So I'll do something on it in the near future, but still have some cap hits. And again, considering foreseeable cuts, like those are difficult conversations too, because the Bakhtiari issue is a massive cluster that is going to be really difficult to figure out. I'm not saying for me, I'm saying for the Packers and how they want to handle that situation. And then you've got guys like Devondre, Aaron Jones, and some really, Preston Smith, some really interesting decisions that Green Bay is going to have to make as well. So it's a nuanced conversation, and probably one that's a little bit more for like a full episode rather than just a quick answer. And like I said, I just unfortunately don't have the salary cap numbers in front of me. It would take me a little bit to kind of go through everything. Ian, thanks so much for the super chat. What are the chances Aaron Jones is back next year, Andy? They're missing a big play speed threat at running back in the draft. Much love. Thank you. These are the really difficult conversations and discussions to have, because I said before, when they were losing a bunch of games, I would probably just start, going and moving on from some of these, what I will call as like Rodgers era veterans. And I think it's time to start building that young core up and going in a different direction. Some wins all of a sudden changes that pretty drastically if they start pulling off a lot of wins. And now you go into next year and you're like, I don't really know that I want to move on from a Aaron Jones or a Kenny Clark or a Preston Smith. I think the two that are most interesting to me right now are Devondre Campbell and Aaron Jones. Campbell has not played well. You do save some money from releasing him. And I think it's smarter to go with a youth movement at that position, just get a little bit faster, a little bit more physical. So that would be one that I probably would go with. Jones is so hard. He is, when Goody and everyone says he's the heartbeat of the team, like he really is. Like he makes so much go in that Packers locker room. My guess is they're going to try to restructure him again and try to save as much money as they can. I'm sure Aaron would love to retire in Green Bay. You get to that age as a running back and things start to go pretty quickly. I don't think he's had the same burst this year, although I think he did go back to the Chicago game and he looked like Aaron Jones. I think coming back from the hamstring and stuff like that, I didn't think he looked quite the same. So, and just all these injuries that he's having, that can happen at this age for a running back. You just start to deteriorate from all the wear and tear on your body. So everyone wants Aaron Jones on this team in some capacity because of the player he is, because of the guy he is. Like, you never want that guy to leave, but those are the difficult conversations that you have to have. And that's why, as a GM, you have to make everything as like a business decision, which it sucks and it's cold, and it's harsh, but it's true. And I'm sure they'd love to get younger and more dynamic at that position. Can you do that with, using a top pick in the draft and going Aaron Jones, new dynamic playmaker, and Emmanuel Wilson or something like that? Sure. I think you could do that. Or Jones, dynamic playmaker, and Dillon. Sure. I think you could do that. It just depends on where Green Bay wants to put their resources and if they want to continue with the Aaron Jones situation, or if they really do want to get younger, faster, and start going with maybe a little bit of a different playmaker. All right, Tyler, can you speak to the Lambeau turf being slick? They mentioned it in the Chargers game. Is that done on purpose? I thought Green Bay always ranked near the top in field quality. Yeah, it always plays slick. And if you don't have large cleats on, you're going to be slipping around. We saw it with Eckler on the big fumble. It gets talked about every year. I think there was a big who got hurt for the Dolphins. That doesn't look good. Is that Waddle? No, somebody help me out in the chat. But that did not look good on whoever was getting carted off. Yeah, the turf always plays slippery. In order to keep it that way in winter, they have to water that thing a ton. Now they have like irrigation system and heating system and everything else on that field. So it is a little bit perplexing that it plays as slick as it does. It is not done on purpose, but I know they do have to water it a ton to kind of keep it in that shape. So from a look standpoint and from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint, it's gorgeous. It looks perfect. It is picturesque. And you're never seeing it like Soldier Field where there's like chunks of the field, like just tearing up in different places and like peeling. And you got to put like sand out. Like you never see that stuff happening, but it does definitely play slick. And it usually takes the opposing team a little bit of time to adjust their cleats to how slick it's playing. And even sometimes Packer players as well. Jalen Phillips just tore his Achilles. Oh, not great. Jalen Phillips was playing awesome too. That sucks. Let me make sure I get to all these super chats here. All right, Preston, thanks so much. Do you think this offseason will emphasize acquiring offensive line talent due to the incompetence in run blocking? I have, if you guys checked out the members video, for those of you who are Pack-A-Day podcast members, I just did a whole video on like draft and like what the priorities should be. Offensive line to me is number one. We just talked about it like on numerous occasions already here, but offensive line are so hard to find. And it's like, you have to continue to build that position up in today's NFL. Not only are offensive linemen so hard to find, we are in a golden age of pass rushers. Like pass rushers have never been this good. And there's like really good ones on every single team. So the better offensive line you can have both for run blocking, pass protecting, the better. And if you can find well-rounded ones, my goodness, those are like freaking gold right now. So to me, Yash Nyman's a free agent. You can't count on anything from a David Bakhtiari standpoint. And then John Runyon Jr. is a free agent. The nice thing for Green Bay is they do have a baseline. They do have a baseline next year starting off of Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, and then Sean Ryan and Zach Tom. They do have a group of five where it's basically what they're starting now, except they're going with Sean Ryan instead of John Runyon Jr., which I think a lot of us have been calling for anyway, and feel like that would actually be an upgrade. And they're winning games with that right now. So it's not like the end of the world, but I do think it still needs to be a priority. Number one, for depth. If any of those guys go down, now you don't really have a great backup. You're looking at Royce Newman, Luke Tenuta, Caleb Jones, those sort of players as your backups at that point, which isn't quite the same. And you would love to have competition for Rasheed Walker. You'd love to have competition for Sean Ryan. You'd love to have competition for Josh Myers. To me, there's two offensive linemen that you feel great about: Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins. And every other one of those positions, you want competition. Now, if Bakhtiari somehow is good to go and back and somehow you can count on him, still you have to be wary and you can't really count on that. But Bakhtiari, Tom, and Jenkins gives you three of the five. But I still think you want competition, and you have to know that even if Bakhtiari is a go and you think he's going to be a go, it could be he's out all of a sudden out of nowhere again. So I don't think you can really count on that all that much. All right, Nathaniel, thank you so much. This Thanksgiving, I was thankful for Dan Campbell being in such a giving mood. And the Lions in general, right? 3 fumbles and should have been a fourth. That Preston Smith sack fumble on fourth down that they called incomplete didn't matter because it was fourth down anyway. But that was a forced fumble and fumble recovery as well. The fake punt was egregious and awful, and I'm not sure what the heck they were possibly thinking on that specific play based on the look that Green Bay gave them. So yeah, they were definitely in a giving mood. And then credit Green Bay's defense on fourth down too. Those fourth down stops were freaking massive that they had in that game. I think, again, they stopped like 5 in a row at one point. So credit to Green Bay as well. This is the difference. And when I talked about the Chargers game a couple weeks ago and said, hey, the Chargers game was a nice win, but the Chargers really, really gave that game away. Like, they gave that game away. This one, the Lions, went for it aggressively on some fourth downs and had the fake punt and stuff like that. But Green Bay stopped everything. That to me was more Green Bay taking it away than it was and stopping them than it was the Lions giving it away. But was happy and thankful for the way that the Lions and the Packers played in that game. That's for sure. Greg, thank you so much for the super chat. Great show as usual. Much appreciation for the show from up here in the UP. Love the UP logo. Love the UP as well. Been up there multiple times. Always a good time. So Greg, really appreciate that. All right. What else we got in the chat here? Omar, I would not say trash. Like you just have to like recalibrate. If you watch offensive line play throughout the NFL, then there's a lot of trash. Rasheed Walker's been playing much better as a pass blocker these past couple weeks. There's some signs there. Myers had a neutral game this week. Not great, not bad, but neutral. Runyon struggled all year long. Sean Ryan, we don't know yet. He had a really nice day in limited duty this week, though. So I'm not sure I would go quite there with trash, but you definitely want competition, and ideally you want upgrades at both of those positions. All right, what else we got? Rick, do I think if teams start respecting the passing game that the run game improves a little? No, because I think teams have mostly been playing Green Bay's pass all year long. Like they haven't given Green Bay's run game credit all year long, nor have they needed to. So I don't think that changes it. I mean, it certainly helps. And, you know, if they can go more too high safeties, you can get some of those runs. You know, like you saw Dylan have one this past game where they were in too high. And he, you know, I think it was on like a 2nd and long and they handed to him and he gets like 12 yards on the play. So I think you can get a few things like that, but the way that you get better at running the football is by blocking up front. And all you need to know is that like, they don't even trust that offensive line to be able to get the tush push going for a yard when they need it on 4th and 1. So it needs to be a lot better and they're going to need to really work on that. And like I said, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take some time to figure out exactly how to put the right pieces in there to be a better run blocking team long-term. Nick, does Love get a new deal by year's end? I don't think so. It's not without, you know, it's not in the like realm of impossibility. I think it's definitely possible, but I don't expect it. I think certainly it's a complicated deal to get done. And if I were Green Bay, I'd want to see through the season to just kind of like, let's just double and triple make sure. Like I'd rather pay a little bit more after the fact, but also know for sure that he's the guy than sort of gamble on it. You gamble on it, you can end up in the Daniel Jones situation. So I'd rather be a little extra cautious and take, you know, and be careful with it and do it after the season and work it out then kind of be over aggressive now and then really regret it if he ends up not playing well and not being the guy long-term. Good said we know by Thanksgiving based off of how Love has played the last 4 games since Rams game. Is he the guy? Was it Good that said that or was it Murphy that said by that? Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm like I said earlier, I'm trending in that direction. I would still want the entire year to play out just to make sure. Because like I said, if he goes out and all of a sudden has 2 really bad games in a row, everyone's going to swing in the opposite direction. I promise you, if he goes out and has 2 bad games in the next 2 games, everyone is going to be like, oh, he's not it. He's not the guy. Trade up in the draft, get somebody else. Sean Clifford time again. So I think he's the guy. I really do. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for a long time. I think we're seeing the baseline now really kind of settle in of like who he's going to be. And I think if you give him a run game and as he continues to learn, you know, and actually start games, I think he's going to get better. I think if the defense can step up and give him some, you know, better opportunities and not, you know, constantly playing from behind, I think there's a lot left for Jordan Love. And with just a little bit better stuff around him, I think it's going to even look better. And imagine when, you know, he is on the same page in a couple of years and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Wicks and Reed and Musgrave and Kraft and all these guys are in the prime of their career. These guys are babies in the NFL and they're just like learning to crawl. And imagine once they're running, it's going to be really, really fun. And I think that's what gives you a lot of hope that he could be the guy moving forward. Preston, when you watch all 22 on Wyatt, what is it that you say to yourself? If he fixed this or if he added that, that would have allowed him to break out. There's 2 things that Wyatt needs to be better at. First of all, these past 2 weeks, he's had some really fun plays on tape where he's just annihilating offensive linemen, which is a great sign. It is a really great sign. And as I've said these past few weeks, don't get anything too twisted with Wyatt and think that because you're not hearing him a lot or because he's not coming up with the big plays that he's playing bad. He is in no way, shape, or form playing bad football. He's a good player that's playing sound overall football and is a net positive for this defense. Now, Are you getting the ROI on him for the first round pick and him breaking out and being a big time performer on the defensive line that's wrecking games for the opposing offense? No, that has not come to fruition yet. So there is still things that he needs to improve on quite a bit. But those two things, the two things that you want fixed or want better, number one is run defense. He has to be more stout at the point of attack, especially against double teams. He's been better one-on-one, and he certainly is not getting moved out of his gap the way that he was last season. So there's been progress, but he's still not a plus run defender. And if you want to play on the field a ton and get more opportunities, you have to be better against the run. And he definitely still needs to make progress in that regard. Number two is finishing. We have seen him beat guys easily, clean, whatever, and get upfield. And then the quarterback just steps up and makes him miss or gets out of the pocket or whatever it might be, and he's not finishing those plays. If he starts finishing some of those plays where he's kicking the O-lineman's ass, then look the heck out, because there's a few times each game where he's just winning clean. He just has to finish those plays. So got to be a better run defender, got to finish those plays where he does all the hard work. He beats the guard or the center, gets into the backfield, knifes in there, and then you just got to finish the play. Because if he does, you're going to start seeing a much bigger impact from Devontae Wyatt. How about the similarities between Rodgers and Love's first season? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty like same amount of passing yards, same amount of overall touchdowns through 11 games. Very, very crazy. And, impressive from Jordan. Really, really impressive. And I think, you don't always want to get into the habit of just constantly comparing Aaron and Jordan. They're two different quarterbacks, and like putting that bar out there for Jordan is a tough ask. And I know he's got 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play that he's, in the shadows of. I get that. I think he's responded pretty well to that overall, but still impressive that in those first starts that it's almost identical numbers to what Aaron did in his first year as a starter. Man, Slayton was awful this week. He's had two really bad weeks in a row, but he was awful this week. In fact, he had my lowest defensive grade on the season so far. Owens had the lowest grade on the season for any defender last week. When he gave up that huge touchdown and had a really tough game. This one was worse. He could not get off any blocks. And to be fair, I don't know if it's actually fair, but the matchup with him and Ragnow at center is just a nightmare, because Slayton wins with just power and strength, and Ragnow wins with technique and leverage, and Slayton loses with technique and leverage. Like, he plays far too high and just gets beat from a technical standpoint. And Ragnow is one of the most technically gifted centers in the league. That's just a really bad matchup for Slayton. It favors Ragnow in a massive way, and Ragnow can hold up physically as well against Slayton. So Slayton had nothing to go to. And that's what happens when you're not a technically sound player, is you play more technically sound players and you're likely going to get your butt handed to you, especially if you can't beat them with just raw talent and physicality. We saw that in that game, but Slayton could not get off of it. Like, he could not get off blocks. He could not make plays. He was getting moved off of his spot. He needs to continue to work on his technique, his pad level, his, just not playing too far upright, like all of it. And if he doesn't, he's going to continue to have days like that. That was a really bad game from TJ Slayton this week. Did I see Tay bigging up Watson on Twitter? Yeah, definitely did. That's awesome. You love to see that sort of stuff, especially because they never played together, right? That, like, Watson was the replacement, and what they, used the draft picks that they got in the, Devontae trade to go get Christian Watson. So it's not like he played with them for a year and made that attachment. That was Devontae just going out on his own and saying, like, hey, Christian's playing great. So you love to see that sort of stuff. This week from Christian is the week we've been waiting for. We were desperately wanting Christian to have that breakout game and just go up and get those 50-50 balls. He made a couple great contested catches in this one. Hopefully that can be the spark that he needs, the confidence that he needs to go up and just, make those plays and be much better the remainder of the season that he was to start the year. I think Green Bay started using Christian in much better ways. Christian's coming up with the big plays, and Jordan's finding him when he's open. So best of all three worlds. Yep. Quay and Watson, correct. So they had the first round pick went to Quay, and then they used their own second round pick and the Tay second round pick to go up and get Watson in the second round. I draft O-line first, sign veteran on a 1-year deal, draft quarterback day 2 if Love falls off. Draft O-line first. I like that. Well, here's the thing. Don't pigeonhole yourself, or like don't give yourself just one position to draft, right? Draft talent. That's what they should be looking at. But O-line should be on the top of their shopping list overall when it comes to the draft. Now, if they draft 3 guys in day 3 again, like round 4 and 5, I'm okay with that because they've really been great with that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm not there on a quarterback yet. I like Love as 1, and I like Clifford as 2. But like you said, if he falls off, then yeah, give yourself an out and see if maybe you get a lottery ticket and maybe that pays off in a different way. Usually Clark and Ragnow get like each of them have wins throughout the course of the game. So you'll see Clark get the best of Ragnow in a couple plays, and you'll see Ragnow get the best of Clark more than other centers do in the league. That's for sure. Bradbury's the one in Minnesota that Clark usually just owns over and over and over throughout the course of a game. BPA, Rick Harris, BPA. Oh, I lost it. There it is. Matt, maybe, but it's probably what they need still. Defensively, we can, if we want to go over grades on that side of the ball, I only have 3 players on defense with real positive grades so far this season: Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, and Rasul Douglas. And unfortunately, one of those players is no longer on the team. After that, it's a lot of neutral grades and some bad grades. Quay has not stepped up. We just talked about Wyatt. Slayton has been up and down as of late, a little bit more down. Preston Smith's been playing better as of late. He looks good, but he's getting older. The safeties are meh. Jair has been out, and when he played earlier this year, did not look like Jair. Stokes has not come back and played. He doesn't have any snaps on defense on the season. So I don't know. For me, I'm still probably pretty all in on getting good defensive players if you can find them in the draft. Honestly, I think Quay will be a very good linebacker. I'm not quite there with Quay, honestly. I think he's clearly an upgrade from like Isaiah McDuffie, and I think he's the best linebacker on the team. I think he does some good things, and I don't think he's a bad linebacker in any way. I have a hard time getting to the point where he's like a game-changing, real big difference maker linebacker, which is what you're really hoping for when you pick him, pick 24 or whatever they took him in the first round. And those expectations always suck because what you're trying to get is good players. And I think he can be a good player, but I'm not sure he ever gets Tim Boyle touchdown, baby. I don't think he ever gets to that high level play, but it's still very, very early for Quay. He has a lot of potential, a lot of talent. I certainly would not give up on him yet. And I'm still hopeful that he can find a way to really become an impact player for the Packers moving forward. We just talked about this a little bit before. Your tea leaf reading on Aaron Jones is going to be as good as mine. I'm not sure what Green Bay is going to want to do with some of these veterans. And we talked about Campbell and Preston Smith, Aaron Jones being probably the primary ones there. I don't know. I really don't know. He is the heartbeat of the team. He's getting older. He's getting more banged up. I don't know. I really legitimately don't know. I know that's not a great thing for a analyst or expert or whatever you want to call me. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But to say, but I literally don't know. It's a really hard tea leaf to read in this situation. Why do people always look at worst case scenarios and talk about Love falling off? I don't get it. So negative. I just think, I don't know, if you're talking about me, I'm going to be realistic and say, like, if he does have a couple bad games, I promise you people are going to turn in the other direction and be like, he's not the guy. If he has 3 more awesome games, so then we're going to have a real conversation. That's what I think people are asking today of like, is he, going to put, he's going to put some, big numbers up and get a big contract this season. It's within the realm of possibility as well. I think it's still like so much on this team is still an unknown. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for optimism for where this team is at. I think you should be optimistic coming off that Lions game for just about the way everything's headed right now. But I know how this works, right? Right now, 2 wins in a row and everyone is on cloud 9 and this franchise is headed in the right direction. Everyone's great. Extend everyone. They're going to the playoffs. It's amazing. Like print your playoff tickets right now. And then if they lose to the Chiefs, even it's probably only would take the Chiefs game, but if they lose to the Chiefs and then have a crappy game against the Giants, it will swing all the way in the other direction. It will swing all the way in the other direction and everyone's fire everyone. LaFleur's not the guy. This team can't coach. Goody sucks. It'll swing in the exact opposite direction. Promise you. Why? I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it goes in the other direction. They just, win the rest of their games. That'd be great. Then we can really have some fun hot takes after that with where the team is going. But like the peaks and the valleys of fandom are crazy. So I just try to stay a little bit more in that middle range and just saying like we're all in, cloud nine and in seventh heaven right now with where this team played, especially this past week against Detroit. But things can swing in a variety of ways in a hurry. Just as 2 weeks ago, after the loss to the Steelers, and you've got 3 tough games coming up, and the sky is falling and everything sucks and fire everyone. 2 games later, looks a whole heck of a lot different. A lot can change in 2 weeks in the NFL, one way or the other. Am I asking for a Zane Anderson jersey for Christmas? I don't know if you can see it. I have it right here. Here's my Zane Anderson jersey. It's hard to see. I know, but yeah, actually I have it right here. Extend Murphy. You can't extend Mark Murphy. Like the chat, everyone. Like the chat. Make sure everyone sees it. Help out that algorithm. Preface, I think Love is amazing. How does this not go like Daniel Jones' contract? What happened with Daniel Jones? So basically what happened with Daniel Jones is the Giants took a calculated gamble and thought that he was playing well and wanted to give him a big contract, not like this super massive contract, but a big contract before he continued to do really well. And then it was going to get to a super massive contract that they had to pay him. The issue is they gave him far too much guaranteed money. They bet way too heavily into Daniel Jones off of a very small sample size of good games. I think everyone recognized that the talent was there for Daniel, but he hadn't put it all together yet. The Giants gambled that he was going to put it all together, and then he hasn't. And now he tore his ACL, and now they have this albatross of a contract that's tied to a quarterback that's probably not the guy, and it just does not look very good right now. They probably, in hindsight, should have given the bigger contract to Saquon, or maybe even just let Saquon walk and instead put the franchise tag on Daniel Jones to give him a little bit more time to make that decision. Instead, they gambled, they lost the gamble, and things are probably going to get a lot worse before they get a lot better in New York. Carl Brooks, love Carl Brooks. Love me some Carl Brooks. He's going to be, I think, a really big time starter in this league. I'm so excited for him. I do think he needs to get better against the run. I do think he's getting moved out of his spot. That's expected, though. He's coming up with 1 to 2 big plays every single game. And as a rookie in a rotational role, he is everything that you can ask for. And I do think that's going to continue to get better as he kind of masters his craft moving forward. Cam, I'm interested to see if Stokes does come back, how they use him, because he came back earlier and they just used him on special teams. So that's going to be an interesting conversation when he is back and who they ultimately put at corner. That'll be a very, very interesting conversation. Mount UG or Mr. UG, I'm not there. McDuffie has some good instinctual stuff, but he's just very limited athletically. I would put Campbell and Quay ahead of McDuffie. I know there are some real Isaiah McDuffie believers out there. I think Mike Wall really likes Isaiah McDuffie. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know he's been intrigued with him in the past. So I know there's some believers out there. I'm not quite there. I certainly, if everyone was healthy, I would have Quay and Campbell out there. And I do think McDuffie is a step back from that. I thought he had a rough week this week, but again, everyone sees everything a little bit differently. So I do know there are some McDuffie believers out there. What else we got? Yeah, this Friday game does suck. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of bad football and a lot of bad teams in the NFL right now. Connor, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Preston, if any, what areas has Love met exceeded expectations thus far? Also, why in the hell aren't we starting Sean Ryan? I'll hit the second one first. I don't know. I do not know. I do know that they usually like stability and to go with the guy that's, has been out there more and they're loyal to those guys. But Runyan's had a really, really bad year, like a really, really bad year. Brian Bulaga today, I posted that it's Sean Ryan time with a great clip of Sean Ryan. And Brian Bulaga quote tweeted and said that that's exactly what he's been telling Mark Tauscher and what he's been saying, that it's time to go with Sean Ryan. There's a limit to what I will know about offensive line play, which is why we bring on Mike Wall. If Brian freaking Bulaga says it's Sean Ryan time, you know what time it is? Sean Ryan time, damn it. Get Sean Ryan in the game at right guard, and enough is enough. I'm ready. Running's not under contract next year. Let him be a rotational depth piece if you need him. But I think it's time to get Sean Ryan in the game. It's past time to get Sean Ryan in the game. In what ways has Love exceeded my expectations thus far? I think, first of all, his ability to go through progressions and read defense is ahead of where I expected it to be. Um, is running ability is actually a step ahead of what I thought it was. I knew it was similar to this, but I think it's even a little bit better than I expected it to be. In fact, I wish they would use it a little bit more. Um, Outside of that, especially based on what I saw in training camp, I'm not sure that there's any like one thing that I'm shocked by. This is a lot of the Jordan Love that we saw in training camp, the ability to go through progressions, read defenses, get rid of the ball, get it out of his hands, put the ball in the hands of his playmakers. I think the decision making has been better than maybe I expected it to be by just a little bit. Still some things that he can clean up with that, but there's nothing that's super shocking to me at this point. I think that the thing, if there's one thing that I can compliment the most, and it is maybe surprising the most, is how little the being in the shadow of Rodgers and Favre seems to have bothered him. He is so comfortable in his own skin and so cool and calm and collected. And that's just who he is, which is amazing. What he's been able to do without any running game whatsoever has been really impressive as well. So there's a lot of things, but those are some of the things that kind of stand out. Yeah, I was thinking about this, David. I got to get Ben on in the near future. I was actually going to ask him on Sunday, but I know he does the Amazon stuff on Thursdays. He's doing this one right now, Jets Dolphins, and then he does Sunday football with Charles Davis's crew as well. So he's a busy man this time of year. As soon as the season's done, I try to get him on more for draft stuff and things like that. But we'll definitely have to touch base with him and try to get him on sooner rather than later. What else we got? Yeah, I think the long ball is probably the thing that if you're looking at something that's disappointing or still a work in progress, that deep ball needs some work right now. That deep ball has to be more consistent, and that's something he's struggling with, but he'll get there. He's got the arm, and I think that's the big thing, and he'll figure out how, like, the right trajectory, getting on the same page with his receivers and tight ends, and just knowing exactly how much air or not air to put under each of those balls. Andy, do you think Goot will admit his mistake with Myers and draft a center that can call protections, pass block, and run block? I would have liked to have said yes. Apparently, everyone in the building thinks he's playing the best football of his career. So I don't know. Boy, Timmy Boyle, tough day. I don't know. I think they would love competition there if nothing else is what I'll say. I don't know how you couldn't. And when Green Bay says best five guys, I think they're going to really look at best five guys. I don't think they want to move Elton or Zach Tom, but both of those guys can play center as well. So if they all of a sudden draft some other players that are great at right tackle or left guard, you do have some flexibility there as well. But I just want to see competition. That's all I want to see. I don't care if it's a free agent. I don't care if it's a 4th round pick. I don't really care, but I want to see some competition at that spot because I think it's beyond needed. Rick, I will not have this blasphemy in my chat. You're working on getting banned, my friend. No Tim Boyle slander in the chat. Not allowed. Chris, I am with you so far. I just want to see more of Sean. So, like, at least we can see that decision, right? Like, if Sean goes out and he plays terrible, then all right, move back to Runyon. But I at least need to see more of him. So, like, because Runyon's played bad. He's easily my lowest graded player on the season for Green Bay. It's not close. So let's try something else. Let's try something else. All right, a couple more guys. See, Bob gets it. Bob understands. He's gonna. All right, maybe he's not. That's a tough check down to Dalvin Cook. I said he's gonna get cooking. Get another touchdown in there, Timmy. All right, a couple more guys. I'm gonna head out of here. I like Anthony Johnson Jr. Jerkino. I think he still has things that he needs to work on. There were a couple plays that I thought he could have made that he kind of made a little bit of tough reads on in the secondary this past week, but he's fast, he's physical, he's aggressive, he's not afraid to hit people, he's got good ball skills. There's a lot to like about Anthony Johnson Jr. Love that he's in the game. Like I said, if it were me, Rudy Ford and Anthony Johnson would be the two that I would start the remainder of the year. But I think he has work to do, but I like some of the signs that I'm seeing early from a 7th round pick that's come in and competed pretty darn well as a starting safety when given the opportunity. All right, one more. I'm going to try to find one more good one. All right, we'll do one more after this. I do think they have a chance to make a run at the playoffs. We'll see what they can do the rest of the year. But my hope is that they do not spend big in free agency. I think that would be a major mistake. Like I said, if they want to go out and get Antoine Winfield Jr., somebody that's going to be around for 4 or 5 years, and do like one big free agent signing that can be a long-term play for the team, I'm totally cool with that. But I would not go in that direction quite yet. Pizza, of course, Mr. Yang, or Vang, excuse me. Of course it was pizza. Where do you think our second round pick from the Jets ends up? I don't know, probably like 40 to 44, somewhere in that range. Where are we at right now? NFL standings, league. So the Jets are currently, or they're about to be 4-7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I would put them 8th. So that'd be right around, 40th pick. Somewhere around there. 40th pick sounds right about right. I'll say 40th pick. Pick 40. Definitely had pizza. Mushrooms and onions, baby. All right, last one, then I'm getting out of here. Andy just arrived. Some have mentioned J-Lo's feet mechanic issues. Is that something easy to fix in season? Foot issues are never an easy thing to fix. I went on a big diatribe. I don't remember if it was in a happy hour or a members only Q&A or where it was, but what happens is you grow, and I'll try to make this as quick as possible. You grow up playing football a specific way, playing quarterback a specific way. You have your way that you like holding the football and gripping the football, your natural footwork that feels natural to you. And you do that in middle school and grade school and high school, and then probably the early part of college. And then at some point, your college coaches start getting after you more. And a lot of these, like the best of the best, are going to like quarterback schools, like from a very young age, right? But like you're working with some of these quarterback experts to work on different mechanics, and you work on little things incrementally along the way. Then you get to college, and your college quarterbacks coach wants you to do it a specific way, and your college coach wants you to do it a specific way. And then you get into the NFL, and your NFL quarterbacks coach wants you to do it a specific way. You have a specific quarterback trainer that wants you to do things a specific way. And you've got all of these ideas that are going through your head and all these different ways that you've learned to do it. And that's all great. And you can see, like, and watch the QB school. And what does JT always say, right? When Jordan is back and in his like 3, 5, 7 step drops and in rhythm, everything's clean and crisp. You can tell when in rhythm of the offense, knowing where the ball's supposed to go, and when everything is clean and protected and he's in the natural, progression of his drop, everything from a mechanical standpoint is pretty damn good. There's the things that'll happen, little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty damn good. What happens, and this is not a Jordan Love thing, this is like in every quarterback thing, is all of a sudden you ultimately have the play break down. And when the play breaks down, you're no longer, and you've got defensive linemen flying at your face and edge players and corners doing crazy things and safeties flying around. And you're like, your receiver all of a sudden slips or runs the wrong route and just chaos is happening, right? What happens? You're no longer thinking of, all right, here's my steps on my drop, and here's getting my cleats in the dirt, and here's my arm angle and everything like that. You're just improvising at that point, and you're just like trying to make things happen. And all those mechanics just kind of go out the window. And that's what made Aaron so special, is for a variety of things, but like when he was in his prime, like his mechanics were just amazing. And then he like basically learned how to improvise and make everything, even without the great mechanics, still amazing. Like he was just a machine, right? And when he was, in his like MVP years and stuff. But when all of a sudden everything breaks down, all of your mechanics start to go. So those are things that you always continue to work on as a young quarterback. It's never easy. They're basically trying to make you like a robot, right? Like that everything is just going to happen the same way every single time. And a lot of times that's just not football. And you got to be able to live in a improvised, ad-libbed world and make things happen. And so far, especially this past week, Jordan's made some things happen. And we know he has the different arm angles and things like that. You don't want to live in that world, like, because you're going to have accuracy issues, but he's shown the ability to improvise and play good football. And I think that's the most important thing right now. Of course, I'm a very enlightened 8-year-old. You guys just aren't ready yet. I think that's the biggest thing. There's nothing like, it's not necessarily eating like an 8. What would you rather have than like pizza and burgers and tacos? Quit messing around with all the other stuff. Like, just have the good stuff. You only get one shot at this life. Why am I going to have something that's subpar? Go out on Thanksgiving. Well, you want some turkey and mashed potato? Give me a pizza all day, every day. And I'm the one that's making the MVP food decisions around here. You're still learning. You'll get there eventually. He's our MVP. That's what matters. I'll take it, David. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. No, Chris. No. Little Caesars is great. And Crazy Bread is an all-time elite food item in the world. Like, Crazy Bread should be on everyone's like death row, you're about to be electrocuted in the chair meal. Like, it should be your final meal every single time. That is how good Crazy Bread is. Put some respect on Crazy Bread. Andy, I'm going to make you beef Wellington and a rack of lamb. That's great. Beef Wellington and a rack of lamb is awesome. That's good food. I'll eat that. It's not a question. I have like gyros are one of my favorite foods as well. By the way, gyros are amazing. All right. Enough food talk. Shane, hearts to you as well. I'm out of here, you guys. I'll see you soon. Next live stuff. We'll do a live Q&A next week. Do Pack-A-Day Live next Wednesday, Pack-A-Day Happy Hour next Friday, but probably be a little bit until our next live stuff. So enjoying the time being. Hope all of you guys have an amazing weekend. Enjoy football that doesn't have a ton of stress related to it this upcoming weekend. I guess we're cheering for the Bears against the Vikings, which feels wrong and weird, but just enjoy it, everyone. I'll talk to you guys soon. Until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.